Welcome to another episode of Photoshop for Beginners. My name is Andre, and in this episode I will tell you how to work with layers. Now that you've seen how to customize your workspace and how to resize images and how the tools work, it's time to talk about layers because they are really important in Photoshop. If you want to have the same configuration as I have here on the panels, make sure you watch episode 3 where I talked about how to customize your workspace and how to get this look here. Or if you don't want to customize it and you only want to see the panels, go to Window and activate this option that says Layers, and you should have the panel here or somewhere else on the screen. So before I start, I will create a new document and click OK. I don't care about the size right now. When you create a new document, if you didn't change the default settings, by default you get this background layer which is locked. And this is not an empty layer, although it seems like there's nothing here. This is not an empty layer. It's filled with white. An empty layer would look like this. When you see these squares here, that means there's nothing on this layer. So I'll go back to the default background layer. So as I said, by default it's locked. You can unlock a layer by clicking this icon and dragging it, and you can drag this to this recycle bin here on the bottom right of the panel, and that way you unlock this layer, and you can also see that now these options are available. Now let's see how the layers work. So I will now go ahead and create a new layer by clicking this icon here. You can also create a new layer from the menu Layer, New Layer, and you can see that you can create a few different kinds of layers, but the easiest way is from here. So I'll click this icon and I get a new layer which is empty. You can see those checkerboard here on the background. And you can also change the size of the thumbnail. If you right click on an empty area like this, you can choose medium thumbnail or large, or however you want to have them. And layers, they work just like they are like transparent sheets of paper, so to say. And when you see the work area, it's like watching from the top. The reason why you should use layers is because you will want to separate some certain elements of the design so that you can edit them without affecting the others. So I'll make a short little demonstration here. I'll get the paintbrush, make the hardness to 100%, change the color to this blue one, and I'll paint make it bigger, a simple dot like this. And if you look at the area right now, you cannot tell that this is on a separate layer. You have to take a look at the layers panel here. So you can see that the blue dot is on a separate layer, which I can deactivate, and I also have the ability to move it without affecting the background. I will create yet another layer, and this time I'll make a new dot, but I'll make it green, and get the paintbrush and do the same. And oops, I painted it on the same layer, so I'll undo that and paint again. So now I have both dots on separate layers, but the blue one is on top, so when I drag it on top of the other one, it will cover it. So it's really easy to understand how they work. But the real benefit of having them separately is, besides the fact that I can move them independently, I can also make adjustments, which is really important. So I can change the color to the blue one if I want, without affecting the green one. If I would have both of them in the same layer, and I do the adjustment now, I would affect both of them. Of course I could use a selection, but now apply the adjustment, and now I'm restricting the area only to the selection, and I could change the color like this, but it's not practical because In this case, these shapes are really simple, but if you have like a person or something like that, the selection would be really time consuming to make, and it's not practical at all. So that's why you should use layers when the situation requires it. So now that I hope you understand how they work, it's just a matter of practicing. So don't worry, I'll make tutorials, and when I make new layers, I'll mention when to create new layers. So don't worry too much about it now. You have a few options for layers. You can of course change the names. If you double click the name, you can change the name to whatever you want. These options here are for visibility. You can turn visibility on and off. So if I have this dot here, I can turn it off and on by clicking this icon. If you have multiple layers, let me paint a few other colored dots here on different layers, and a red one, and will be enough. So I have all these layers here, and I only want to have visible I could press the Alt key and click this, and all the other layers will disappear except for this one. And if I want to re-enable the other ones, I press the Alt key again and click the layer. If you only want to disable one, just click on the eye icon. You can also select multiple layers. For example, if I want to select all these layers except layer 3, I could press the Control key and hold it and click these two layers, and it will select those ones. If you want to select from layer 4 all the way to layer 0, you could press the Shift key. You can select the first layer and press the Shift key and then press the last layer, and everything that's in between will be selected. You can also group layers. If you click this folder icon, you can create a new group and then select the layers that you want and drag them on the folder, and you have them on a group, and you have the same options for the group as you have for a layer. In my case right now, I don't know, I cannot do that. If you select multiple layers, if you right click, you should have an option that says group layers. For some reason I don't see it here, I don't know why, but you should have that option here on the list. And if you right click, you have the option to ungroup layers, so you delete that group. So let's see what options we have for layers. So you can change the opacity of each layer. So as you can see, if you drag it to 0, the layer becomes invisible. The fill works exactly as the opacity, but it affects layer styles. I will talk about this on another episode. You have a few locking icons here. I don't use them, to be honest. You can use them to lock a layer and make sure you don't move it, and you cannot paint on it, but I never use them. And then what we have in this drop down list is blending modes. And also, to be honest, I don't know how to explain the technicals behind each blend mode. I only know that they work with contrast and colors, and it's just a way of affecting, and it's a way of blending colors and contrasts, and I'll show you how they look. For example, I'm changing the blend mode only of layer 4, and you'll see how they interact, and you will see how each blend mode affects the way the colors and the contrast interact with each other. So I'm just trying each of them on a quick pass so that you can see how they work. But you will learn in time. You will learn how they work. But if you want a more detailed explanation, you can go to the Photoshop help and type blend modes, and you'll have a technical explanation of each blend mode. But I don't need that. But I'm okay with just trying each of them, and I will choose the one that looks the best in each situation. So that's pretty much with it with the layers panel. We have a few more icons here on the bottom part, but I'll talk about those on more detail on another episode. For example, this icon is for adding adjustment layers. So this is a new kind of layer. These are used for non-destructive editing, really easy to use. And then we have layer masks. I will talk about masks on another episode. What else? Then we have layer styles. So you have a few, for example, you can have the blend mode here is the same as the one here, so you can change the blend mode from here as well, and a whole set of effects that you can add to a layer, but I'll talk in more detail about this on another video. So the important thing about layers is to understand how they work and how to create new layers, and you'll get it in time. So that's all for now. I'll see you on the next episode.